Hey there, storytellers. Welcome to the crossroads of imagination and innovation, where stories come to life through the power of artificial intelligence. I'm Mira Gold, and you've tuned into AI Writers Connection, the AIWC, where we explore the latest tools in narrative crafting. Today, we're diving into the incredible world of NovelCrafter, a tool that is revolutionizing how we create stories, just like Chat, GPT, Pseudowrite, and Jasper. Join me as we use NovelCrafter's Tinker to brainstorm a concept, sketch out an idea, and develop chapter story beats for an exciting new project. Get ready to unleash your creativity and transform your ideas into captivating narratives. Let's get started. On the very first page of NovelCrafter, you see the little create button. I already did that earlier, about 44 minutes ago, but I'm going to walk through just to show you how you can create your own novel with NovelCrafter. All you would do is create novel. You would add your book details, your title, your author pen name. You would select whether this is part of a series or a brand new series, what book number. If you didn't know what you wanted to name it, you could say surprise me, and it would just come up with multiple choices for you to go through. Each time you click it, it'll be a brand new one. So let's go ahead and go back. And I'm going to go into the Gemini Project. Now, one of the things that I do want to tell you about the Gemini Project, I'm going to click the little cog right here up at the left-hand top. I was able to upload my own cover. Now, how did I come about getting this cover? I actually loaded my concept idea into Chat GPT-4, which is the paid version, and I asked it to produce a cinematic image that I could use as a cover. It went ahead and produced this specific image, and I went into Canva, and once I was in Canva, I went ahead and added the fonts myself. So it's just a quick, easy way for you to take a look at who your characters are, how you might want to go about making a cover. AI makes that so much easier for you today. Now, if you ever create a file and you want to get rid of it, the little danger zone right here allows you to delete your novel. We are not doing that today because I want to show you some really interesting aspects of the NovelCrafter story section. So what I do want to show you is the codex. So if I go in and say I want to take a look at my project again, if I'm on the home page, I can click the Gemini Project. It brings me into my story. And right now, as you can see, I have absolutely nothing planned out for my story. It says, start your book right away from scratch, import an existing outline, or import an existing novel from a file. So say you already have your outline, your story beats, you can import that information, or you can automatically click create the first scene right here, and you can create the very first scene. Now, because this is a brand new concept, I want to flesh it out from beginning to end. So one of the things that I want to do is come up here where it says plan, and rather than plan my story right here or writing it, I want to go into Tinker. Now let's talk a little bit about Tinker. Tinker is like the chat equivalent within, say, Jasper, or even within ChatGPT, how you can have that conversation back and forth. That is what Tinker does for you inside of NovelCrafter. So I can have that conversation going back and forth. I can actually pick my model. So right here, if I want to change my model from the general purpose of the GPT-4 Turbo, I can click the little cog. I can go down. Now, I did clone it. So under the general purpose, I went over and I cloned that one, and I created my own, which is basically a duplicate. I duplicated the general purpose, made a few changes to it, And I also made it a not safe for work, because one of the things that you have to keep in mind inside a novel crafter, because you're using your own API keys, if you're going to use chat, or say you're going to use GPT-4 Turbo, or even just straight up GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 or Claude, they are filtered. So that means that I'm not able to work in the confines of those specific areas with unfiltered work. It will always be filtered. So if I want to work with something that's not filtered, then I might come in here and go into Minstrel. I might go into, say, Goliath, or maybe Mythomax. If I'm looking to write something, maybe a battle scene where there might be some violence and gore, or if it is a steamy scene, I might want to pick one of those unfiltered LLMs. But for what I'm looking to do, I'm just going to use the default, the general purpose. Now, with the general purpose, I do want to use the GPT-4 Turbo. Now, here I can make changes to these sections here if I want to, but in order to make those changes, I would have to clone it first to make those changes. Now, if I go into the one that I did clone, here I can set my specific temperatures. So even though I have it labeled for not safe for work, I can still use it for, say, GPT-4 Turbo, but I can also use it maybe for Claude if I want to set the parameters for Claude as I did here. Or I could even go down and I could click any one of these others and set my temperature, my top P, my max tokens. So I could input all that information. So let's go ahead and stay with the cloned one. I'm going to go back into my project by going into my menu. I'm going to go into Tinker. Now, once inside a Tinker, I want to play around. I have my information here inside of my brainstorm. If you are an Atticus user, then you're going to be familiar with this layout. So again, this section here on the right hand side, this is Attic. If I'm on my Mac, I will store things inside of Vellum, but since I'm on a PC today, I store it inside of Atticus. Under my brainstorming, I came up with about 447 words of a concept. I do want to go ahead and read out what my concept is, because in addition to the concept that I have, like this little idea that's gnawing away at my brain, I also want to use one of my prompts to wrap this concept in. And I've had a lot of people say, hey, what if I have a concept that I really want to use, but I also want to use one of your templates and wrap it in there? Then this video is going to show you how to do that. So for the Gemini Project, it states, in a near future where genetic modifications has blurred the lines between science and ethics, the Gemini Project follows Dr. Abigail Abby Solis, a brilliant geneticist grappling with a rare, outlawed condition with a death sentence her scientist parents kept a secret. She has chimerism. From what is chimerism? She basically absorbed her twin in utero, which caused some negative effects for her. Now, remember, this is a fictionalized body of work, and so I'm twisting some things that actually happen in the medical community, but I'm twisting it to have more of a sci-fi fantasy effect. In my story, her as a chimera, or having that chimerism, she has absorbed her twin, which happened to be a male. It caused some negative effects with her immune system, skin pigmentation, variations, as well as psychological impacts. She's driven by a personal quest to understand and control her own genetic makeup. Why does she want to control her genetic makeup? Because she wants to avoid detection by the government, who actually rounds up individuals with genetic abnormalities or defects within this society. Abigail embarks on a groundbreaking experiment. Her goal is to silence that DNA to make it dormant. She wants to keep her twin dormant and she hopes to eradicate the genetic abnormalities that have shadowed her life and others who are born like her. However, the experiment takes an unexpected turn. Instead of silencing the DNA, Abigail awakens it, giving life to a bold, uninhibited alter ego that embodies traits linked to the historic berserkers, legendary warriors known for their ferocity and fearlessness in battle, which is tied to a civilization long lost to her people. Now, this new persona, who is actually her absorbed twin, has some deadly intelligence, super smart, and it has her struggling to maintain control and order. The persona invades her thoughts, emerges without warning, and leaves a trail of chaos in its wake. No one knows where this beast of a man came from, which leaves Abigail wondering how she can contain this. The government sequesters her to help try and crack the case without realizing the case actually involves her. So she's struggling to maintain control, to hide her true identity and nature from those who seek to harness the knowledge at any cost. Now, as Abigail contends with her dual identity, her pioneering research draws the attention of a covert government agency. This agency sees the potential in her warrior gene as a means to create super soldiers. So, in addition to her having the chimerism, she also carries a warrior gene. And again, the government is looking at it thinking, oh, let's create some super soldiers with her. Their interest in Abby and the broader implications of weaponizing such genetic abnormalities really weigh heavy on her. Now, if harnessed and if the government harnesses this and replicates it, the agency believes that these traits could revolutionize warfare. And right now, presently in this fictionalized body of work, they're in a war with an alien race that seeks to terraform Earth and enslave humanity. On one hand, the people on Earth look at people with abnormalities as maybe a scourge or something that they need to eradicate. But at the same time, they also look to see what genetic defects or evolution within the DNA that they can actually build upon and exploit. Now, because of the invasion, the government's really looking at a way to build an army that they can use against the invading aliens from outer space. Again, there's a lot going on in this story. I want it to have that DC comic feel to it with superheroes. So I'm not sure how Novel Crafters is going to handle this, but I want to see how far it can take it. Now, let's go further into the story. We know that Abigail is caught in a web of government intrigue. She must navigate a world where her research is no longer her own and where her very identity poses a threat to her freedom and her morality. Now, her struggle is not just against the agency, but also an internal battle for dominance between her two selves, her and her absorbed twin. Now, again, I want it to be a thrilling journey for people to read. I want it to dive deep into the depths of human genetics and identity. And I want it to explore those ethical boundaries of scientific discovery and the essence of self and the profound implication of tampering with the very fabric of humanity. Abigail's story I want it to be that stark reminder of the duality within humans and how those unforeseen circumstances of ambition can impact somebody's life for good or bad. Now, in her fight to reclaim her life and research, she exposes a dark underbelly of scientific advancement and the cost of playing God in a sense. And again, I want to layer it with the fact that there is an alien invasion going on as well. And so not only is she having to fight the alien invaders, but she's also having to fight her inner self, her persona, and she's also having to battle with a government who wants to silence people who are different. So I'm going to go ahead and take all this information here, and I'm going to copy that and take it into Tinker. Now, once I'm inside of Tinker, notice here at how it says this is a new thread. There's absolutely nothing here. All it says is start by typing a message in the box below. Any codex entries you mentioned will be included in the context. If I wanted to, I could already add information here by clicking new entry, and I could click a character, a location, an object, lore, any of that information. But for now, I think I just want to add my little concept here of 447 words. And this right here, I'm going to label it as concept details to wrap into framework. And why am I saying that? Because in just a little bit, I'm going to show you how to wrap this information into one of my longer prompts. So let's go back into Atticus, and I'm going to go to prompt number 1, which is actually a techno-thriller series template. And this is for a serialized body. Again, I'm not sure if I want it to be serialized or if I want it to be an ebook. I can always make that change before I start generating prose, but I can definitely flesh out the story with the same template, whether it is going to be a serialized or an ebook series. Again, I'm going to use this prompt, and if you are familiar with some of my prompts like the 50 niche thrillers, this kind of has the same feel to it. Again, this is a techno-thriller series template. I will share this template with you. My genre is science fiction thriller. My subgenre I have put down techno-thriller, psychological thriller, medical scientific thriller, speculative fiction. I put in dystopian thriller, DNA and genetic manipulation thriller, and alien invasion and attempted colonization thriller. Now, why did I put all those in there? Because I want the AI to know that there are elements of any or all of those within my synopsis and within my beats at any given time. Again, the setting can be futuristic settings, cities, covert facilities, government rule, a one world order. Now, some of this information I actually input myself, just like with what I did with the genre and subgenre, I added additional content. Now, I have a hacker subculture here, corporate espionage, AI ethics. If I thought of any other items that I wanted to put in here, I could put that inside of this culture area. I could put unique elements. If I wanted to add additional things, I could put that in here. So again, don't be afraid to add additional items within the brackets. Whether you do it with uppercase or lowercase, it's fine as long as you keep it inside of the brackets. Again, if you've seen any of my prompts, you know that there's quite a bit of information that I use in here, everything from the genre, themes, motifs, symbolism, tropes. I have my subplot 1, 2, and 3. I have red herring points. I have A story, B story, C stories, and I can even say that additional stories if needed. And that is a conversation that I can have within Tinker. So again, remember, I'm going to copy all of this, and that I just did a Control A and a Control C inside of the PC. If you're on a Mac, it would be a Command C, Command A, and then Command C to copy. So let's go ahead and go back in. So I have my concept details here. I'm stating to the concept details to wrap into the framework. Down underneath here, I'm just going to hit Shift and then enter a few times. I'm going to paste this template in here. I'm going to scroll up to the top, and there's a little bit of information right here that I'm going to grab. And I'm going to actually say that twice, just because I want to make sure that the LLM understands what it is that I'm wanting it to do. So I'm telling the LLM, in this case, it is Tinker Chat. I'm asking it to write out the following story concept synopsis and to please generate it in a non-JSON format, filling in the name of the main characters, protagonist, love interest, antagonist, give the names of the alien race and those invading. And the protagonist, remember, we have two. We have Abby and her brother. We also have a love interest and the antagonist. So I want to make sure that for the antagonist, I need it to give the names of the alien race and those invading, and the names of any supporting characters, places and locations, or things in non-JSON. Now, remember, we have an antagonist. We need to have a human antagonist, and we need the alien race. Give the names of the human and alien race and alien individuals who are invading. Let's see. So I'm wanting it to wrap this information inside. This is how I do it. Now, you could write additional information if you want to, less. It is completely up to you. It is your story. Now I'm going to go ahead and send that off. And as you can see, it kept my series title, which is the Gemini Project. I have tagline, Unleashing the Shadows Within. The genre is science fiction thriller. Subgenre, it kept all of the subgenres that I listed. And let's see, it has the tone, which is high stakes and suspenseful. We have the theme, technology versus humanity, secrecy, discovery. Let's make sure that it is providing everything that we need. Now, here we have, set against the backdrop of futuristic cities and covert facilities where a one-world government rules, the Gemini Project unravels the tale of the brilliant geneticist Abigail Solis, afflicted with a rare outlawed condition known as chimerism. So again, it goes into detail using the information that I gave it. It has wrapped this information in. If I go further down, it lets me know about my world building, where my settings are, my backdrops, my culture, unique information about my tropes. Now, looking at this information here, I feel that it did not fully flesh it out, so I'm going to ask it to do that again. Now, sometimes you have to do this because it gets little hiccups here and there. Now, and as you can see, it generated 590 words a while ago, and it will eat your words when you are generating this way. So keep that in mind. Now, could I do this inside of chat? Yes. So if I were to go up here and copy all this information here, I could go into ChatGPT and I could generate the same information here. I would do that in ChatGPT 4, same information, and let's see what chat does. Hopefully the LLMs are not down. Time will tell. So let's scroll down and take a look at what it has generated. It is doing the same information. This time it did go ahead and give me my story elements. It gave me my narrative devices, which is foreshadowing, my twists. One of the twists is former friends with hidden alien sympathies, the realization of a deeper government conspiracy. All of this needs to be fleshed out further, but it gives me a starting point to work with. Now, for our tropes, we already know that we have a rogue AI, we have shadow government, we have genetic anomalies as evolution or a curse, we have motifs, we have genetic codes as keys to power, we have virtual environments, we have laboratories as crucibles of change. We also have symbolism, the DNA helix as a symbol of life's complexity. So again, we do have all these specific areas that it is touching upon. If I scroll down further, I have our main character who is Abigail. I know that she is an INTJ, so she is an introvert. I know that her love interest is Ethan Drake. And let's see, he is a savvy cybernetic specialist. He has some confidence. Maybe he's an easy ally at first. Maybe he's sent out to locate her since he is a cybernetic specialist. Maybe he is following the clues. We also have a supporting character. We have Marcus, who is the brother. Now, supporting character doesn't mean that he's going to help make things easy for her. No, he could be a guardian, but at the same time, he could take things in a completely wrong direction. Here it has him down as the guardian. Maybe he comes out when she feels threatened. Maybe Abby's anchor to her humanity. Not sure if he's really that anchor. I feel like he's the cause of how she could lose her humanity. So maybe he reminds her of the humanity that she could lose. We have antagonistic forces. We're going to need to name those individuals. And then we have a summary of the story. But let's take a look at what chat gave us. And we have a network error. So I'm thinking that ChatGPT might be having some issues, or maybe OpenAI. And as you can see, just as what Tinker was providing us with, so is ChatGPT-4. Let's take a look and see what it gives us. It gave us a little synopsis, again, that talks about her genetics. It talks about, let's see, her supporting characters. It talks about the main plot point, the subplots. It has storyline A, B, and C. We can definitely see if there are more. And under our story enhancements, we have the pacing, we have the cliffhangers, the characters, depth. One of the things that I like to do before I really dig down deep into my characters, I like to evaluate the content that was given to me. And I can do that with my next prompt here, which is my step 2. I can go in and I'll even do that in chat just so that we can take a look at it. Now, again, both ChatGPT-4 and NovelCrafter's Tinker gave me similar information, of course, different storylines, but they all teeter around chimerism and her twin and the issues that she's facing. So let's go ahead and hit enter on that one, and let's go back to NovelCrafter, and we're going to put step 2 inside a NovelCrafter as well. So you'll notice here that we have a strengthened synopsis. We know that Abby is 32. I could make her younger, older. I don't mind her age because of the fact that she would have had to have gone through several years of schooling in order to earn her PhD. So I'm okay with that. Now, we also have her attributes. We have her strengths, her weaknesses, what motivates her. We also have what her desires are. In this one, she is an INTJ. She is the architect. Now, her love interest is Ethan. So if we look at Ethan Drake, he is 35. He's a couple of years older than her. Let's see his attributes. He is innovative, adaptable, personable. His strengths, technical, ingenuity. He is a quick thinker, and he's empathetic. Let's see his weakness. He overextends himself, can be overly trusting at times, but he also struggles with the ethics of his work. So there's something about his work that he discovers that makes him begin to question who he's working for and what they're doing. Now, he is the campaigner. Now, he is an ENFP, so he is an extrovert, whereas she is an introvert. We have our antagonistic forces, Dr. Michael Harris, who is 50. We know who our antagonist is as far as a human. Let's see if it actually gave us an alien. Okay, so the Zarans are the alien race, and let's see if it gave us somebody specific, and it did. Now, the alien commander, his age or her age is unknown. So here it says that he leads some alien warriors, so our commander is Mel. His presence is both fascinating and intimidating to Abby. So again, she's curious about them, but also a little bit apprehensive. And it's interesting that he is also an architect. So they're both pretty smart. Now, would it be better to make him a strategist? That could actually work really well for him. So let's turn our commander into a strategist. Now, why do I want him to be a strategist? I want him to be a strategist because I want him to be playing chess with the humans and the invasion, because he wants to conquer and transform Earth, providing a place for his people to live. Now, I don't really see, I need more about Abby's brother. So it keeps saying that he is a defender, but I'm more interested in some information that I have inside of my content where it talks about him. Let's see. What if I go in under genre? Let's see. Abby's twin. This is who Abby's twin is. Let's take a look at that. We want to use something that's more chaotic, intense, somewhat deranged style to represent her twin's voice. He should be brilliant, but also unhinged, with a touch of dark humor and a flair for the dramatic. I imagine him as more of a deranged version of a sophisticated villain, where the dialogue, falls between genius and menacing. And I want him to have unpredictable outbursts. So I'm going to ask Tinker to make that change. So I just told him what those qualities need to be for him. And let's see, I'm going to remove the prompt for AI because that's what I want his voice to sound like. So I used that as his voice for later on. Now, I also want him to be handsome. So let's make him handsome also. And let's see what else. We have supporting characters. Before we move forward, let's move Marcus up to main characters. He's a main character, and I want him to have the following qualities. Okay, so let's take a look. We have Marcus, we have Lena, we have a Dr. Stephen Young, and this is her mentor. We also have Lena is the debater. We have, let's see, Sarah is the advocate. We have a commander who is a fellow geneticist and a fierce competitor. We have Tara, who is a cyber whiz. We also have an entrepreneur. We have Leo, who is the entertainer. Let's see, he is a black market dealer in rare genetic materials, so that could be interesting. And then we have a sergeant who is Abby's stoic and duty-bound military escort. So that could be interesting. Now, when it comes to the brother, he can be her protector in a sense, but I also want him to be the source of her discomfort. So I need to let the LLM know this. So I'm going to add a little bit more information here. Now, he's always ready to come out and play combat when she's threatened, but he also enjoys creating chaos. Again, he is unpredictable. So let's see what Tinker comes up with here. In addition to this, I want to let chat know this as well. So let's take a look at what chat has given us. So with chat, we have Abby. We have the information on her attributes, her strengths, her weaknesses, very similar to what we saw within Tinker. We have her love interest. We have the director in ChatGPT-4. Our director is female instead of male. In NovelCrafter, we have a male. We have a commander who is, let's see, does it list the alien? Now we know his name, but do we know what race he is? It doesn't tell me here. So maybe it'll tell me in some of the other areas. Zoroxian, so maybe that's the race for the aliens. Now we do have a little bit of information here on an agent. We have Abby's neighbor. We have an underground rebel leader. So we have a couple of more items in here, but I still want to play with this. I want the commander to be a strategist. So I'm going to just say alien commander, make him a strategist. When it comes to her brother, I'm going to remove his name because remember, her brother has a different name in ChatGPT-4. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit send there, and let's take a look at what it gave us. So now we have the commander is a strategist. He's an alien strategist and commander. He is the force behind the aliens' relentless onslaught. His approach is as surgical as it is strategic. Every move is calculated for maximum impact. Among his own, he is respected for his genius level and tactical mind. Now, I might like him. Maybe we'll redeem him toward the end of maybe this book, and I'm thinking I might want to make this a serialized body because I could see this taking place across multiple episodes and a handful of seasons. So maybe season 2, our commander here could end up finding a human mate. I don't know, but it could be interesting to have him going against humans and then finding somebody that he actually has some affection for and makes him start to see things differently. So maybe toward the end of this first season, maybe he begins to question things, and all because he meets a female. Maybe it's her neighbor. Maybe it's a cousin. Maybe it's somebody that she works with. I don't know yet, but that is definitely something that we could write in. Now, let's see, her brother, while he does not exist physically, I guess in a sense he does, because he can morph between when Abby is female, she's Abby. When he takes over, the body morphs into something male. Now, in further episodes, maybe there's some type of experimentation, or maybe there's some type of tech that the aliens have. Maybe in season 3, maybe the brother, maybe she's captured, and maybe one of the female aliens on board likes the brother, and they find a way to extract him and her and separating them. I don't know, but that could be something interesting to play with if I want to keep this going into multiple seasons. Now that I have a little bit more information here on my character, one of the things that I need to do is take a look at my characters here. I need to be able to start filling my codex. And how do I do that? I need to take all of my supporting characters, and I could load each one of these individually here within the codex, or I could come in here and name my entry as supporting characters, and I could put them all right here. Now keep in mind, I do actually have to remove Marcus, because Marcus, I'm going to make his own. He has to be moved up to the main characters. I am going to put a space in between these, not because the system needs it, but because it makes it a little bit easier for me to see. So now I have that information here. I am just going to add that these are my secondary or supporting characters, and I'm not going to list any type of alias in here. Now, why would I maybe not want to do this? Because once all of my characters are generated in chapters, it's not going to name my characters by name. So that means that anytime my character has an appearance, it will only look at supporting characters as a name. But if I had listed each character individually, then all of my characters would show up individually. As a creator, you have to make a decision. Is it important for you to be able to track the appearance of every single one of your characters across all of your chapters and scenes? Or are you okay with taking a shortcut and putting them all under one specific area? Again, that's a choice that you have to make. And again, it's very time consuming. That would have been 9 entries within the codex, which definitely I could have done. Now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab my information on Abigail. She is my protagonist. So I'm going to go and actually grab all of this information up to this point. So let me go over new entry, character. I'm going to paste the information in, but I'm only going to keep Abigail's information, because then I'm going to go in and find the love interest who is here, and I'm going to copy that and then remove it, because all I want in here is just Abigail. So let me go ahead and type Abigail's name up here. Now, I could put Abby up there, but if I do that, then I run the risk of every time they say her name, they'll put Abby in parentheses. So instead, I'm going to use that as an alias right here. Now, she is a main character, so I'm going to click Add, and I'm going to put down that she is a protagonist. Now, I could also say that she's a primary character as well. Now, I have that information for her, but I have a new entry. Let's go ahead and write in the information for our next character, who is Ethan, and Ethan is the love interest. So I'm going to come over here, and we have love interest as a preset. We know that Ethan is also a protagonist, so we know that he's going to be one of my primary characters. Now, I'm going to have to make a decision at some point. Am I only going to have things told by her point of view, or am I going to tell things from both Ethan and Abby's point of view? Am I going to tell them from her brother's point of view as well? How many POVs do I want this to be? Now, if it was first person, I might alternate just between the love interest and Abby, but I'm leaning more toward this being a third person limited so that I can be in the brain of multiple characters, but I will limit that POV to specific chapters or long scenes within a chapter. So I won't make that decision until I get further in to the plotting process of my summaries for my chapters as well as the chapter beats. By the time I get to that section, I will already have an idea of how I want to write this body of work. But right now, I know that I want it to be third person, past tense. Now, this is for my love interest, but I also need to go in and find my other characters. So here's Ethan. We know that he is our campaigner. We know that we also have antagonistic forces. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to kill that. We have Ethan here. Ethan doesn't have a nickname unless we want him to be called Drake. Maybe they call him by his last name. And let's find characters again. This time we have, let's see, antagonistic forces. We know that in this instance, we have director Michael Harris. We know that he is an antagonist, so I'm going to label him that way. I'm not going to say, well, let's say that he is, I don't want to say he's primary, but we can definitely list him as a secondary for now, but I do want him to have some POV voice time. I want to know what's in this character's head at some point. Now, I'm not going to give him any type of a nickname, or I'm just going to keep him the way he is. Now, we know that he's the executive, and I'm going to come down here, get my alien race. Now, on the alien race, let's see, what did it say about our alien race? So we have our commander. Now, we need a little bit of lore about our alien race, and we're also going to need some lore about our humans. But let's go ahead and get our alien antagonist in here. So we know that the alien race are the Zarans. We know that the commander is the individual that we're looking at. Now, we did change him, so we want him to be the strategist. Let's see what that ended up giving him down here. Okay, so let's pull the information here for him, and let's go back into his information. I do want to keep the alien race name in there just for quick reference. I am going to go ahead and write his name. Now, what kind of a nickname do we want to give him? Maybe they call him Commander. And he is an antagonist. He's secondary, but he's also, let's say, now will it add? He's not an incidental. He's an antagonist as well. So let's go in and take a look. Now her brother, we changed some information about him. So let's scroll down. I want to say a little bit more information about him. So I need to make some changes here. for her brother. Now, her brother's name is Marcus. We're going to make a new entry here. We're not going to give him an alias, but we are going to let's make him a primary, because just like her, he's the other half of a coin, the twin persona that takes physical form when he takes over. Let's say, while he does not exist physically until Abby needs protection, Marcus Solis is the embodiment of the twin Abby absorbed. So the manifestation of Abby's chimerism is both her shield and her torment. So we can definitely put that in there. Now, we also have, see, what other information do we want in here? Okay, so this does have a little bit more. He's a little deranged. I like that. So who else can we put in here? How about some lore for the alien race and for the human? Now, for the alien race, they're from a war-torn world that was destroyed. So let's see what we can get for the alien. Now, we can also state that maybe they are an ancient race of aliens, and they have slowly evolved and been going out and terraforming the galaxy. So let's do the same thing in chat. Now, if I look at the information that chat did again, chat is giving me similar information, and I'm going to ask it to give me some lore and backstory on the human world as well as the alien race. So let's take a look. That's pretty good information. Lore of Earth and humanity. They're on the edge of a new era. They live in densely populated cities that sprawl upward toward the sky and downward into the earth. So that's interesting. So it gives me a little bit more information that I can build upon. Now, one of the things that I can do here is I can grab this lore right here and I can move that over as an entry. Now, as you can see, this takes quite a bit of time. So it's not something that you can just come in and push a button and wham, it's all done for you. No, this takes some time. And even with what I'm doing right now, I'm moving through it quick. And in order to really flesh this story out, I would need to go in and dig deep into all of this content in order to ensure that I had set up the story the way that I want. I've not had adequate time to read through everything, fully flesh out the story the way that I want it. So would I generate a whole book off of this right now? No, because it is not ready. I haven't even fully fleshed out my characters yet. I need to spend more time with them. And on these supporting characters, I'm more than likely going to go in at some point and I'm going to load each one of these individuals manually. So I'm going to have 9 more entries here. In addition to that, I'll probably flesh out more of my aliens and have anywhere from, say, 5 to 7, 8 more characters for my aliens. I also would need to take a look at how many military individuals I have, because I may need to add more characters. Now, one of the things that I found interesting even with NovelCrafter using the GPT-4 Turbo with my API, when I'm generating, generally it will grab my character from my list of characters, but if it needs to write in a character that I do not have, then the LLM has been known to add them in there. If that happens, I need to be aware of that so that I can grab that character and plug them into my character list so that any future chapter that I might generate will have that character. So always keep that in mind. Just because the LLM creates a new character sometimes, it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes the story really needs that extra addition to be able to flesh out some of the threads that you've created. So next I'm going to go back in and let's take a look at our prompts again. I'm going to go to step 3. Now, this is for our major character list. We already have a character list, but I'm wanting to dive a little bit deeper and I want you to look at something. I have step 3 to write a major character list. We already have one ongoing, but I've made changes to it. And I'm asking for a few extra additions with my prompt. Now, on step 4, in a little bit, I'm going to ask for some detailed backstory. And why do I do this in steps? Because I can't give the LLM everything all at once. So let me go ahead and copy this. I'm going to go into chat. And remember, we asked it to give us information on the lore also. And here we go. It broke it up in a little different way, giving me transforming missions, humanity as a resource. So the aliens view humans not as equals, but as resources to be utilized, or even obstacles to be eliminated. Some of this is information that I might want to feed into NovelCrafter at some point. For the most part, when I am going back and forth with an LLM and fleshing out a concept, I really like to use ChatGPT-4 because I feel that it gives me some really good, solid information. Now, we also have some changes to the world. There's a one world order on government on Earth. It talks a little bit more about that, the surveillance of state, ethical dilemmas. It gives information on the Gemini Project and the government intrigue. So all of this is good information. Now, I may want to actually take some of this information and feed it in, but I'm going to grab the same prompt that I used a while ago. I'm going to grab that, but I'm also going to grab this information here on the project, and I'm going to ask it to add this information for Abby. So let's go back into Tinker, and we have this information here on lore in Earth and humanity. But before I go further, I want to add this information too. So I'm going to ask it to add more details. Let's see what it comes up with. I'm curious to see what it does. Now I'm also going to grab this prompt again because we're going to need it inside of NovelCrafter. So as you can see, now I have more information on the Gemini Project and government intrigue. I have more information about Abby's world, the global government. It gives me more information to be able to put down in here. I can add the Gemini Project in there. I have covert agencies, and I have to take a look at what some of the information that it's producing, how I can move that over. Do I need to add it to lore? Do I need to add it by itself? That's all information that I can plug in. So let's take a look. I'm going to go back up here while this information is generating, and let's take this information and I'm going to make this an entry. Now I'm going to make this an entry of other, and let's grab this. We want this to be the Gemini Project so that we have a little bit more information about that specific entity. Now, we don't really have anything up here that we want to use, but under preset, we can have government, organization, military. I'm going to use military for this one. And let's look at the agencies. So we have BGSE. So we can definitely grab all this information. And we have another section. And we know that alias is going to be BGSE. Grab the name, put it up here. We are going to, let's see, the surveillance. It is part of the police force, spy network. Rather than military, let's go in and label this as government, just so that we have some of those differences there. Now here's our list again. This hasn't changed. She's still the architect. We have Ethan, we have Harris, we have the commander, we have our minor characters. It did not put her brother up there. Her brother is still down here, but I've already put him inside of my entry list. So let's take a look at what was created within chat. So we have Abigail, we have Ethan Grant, we have, let's see, Marks, who is our antagonist. We have the commander, the alien commander, who is also an antagonist. We have Abby's twin brother, who ChatGPT-4 has moved up to being a main character. We have minor characters listed here. So now I want to dig a little bit deeper I want to know some of the backstories. What made my characters who they are today? So I like to spend a lot of time in this area. Now, I don't have a whole lot of time to be able to play with some of this stuff. I'm moving through it quickly, but with the backstory, I would actually go back and forth to flesh out my main characters and even some of my minor characters just to get an understanding of their backstory. So, looking at chat, so here we have a network error. This does happen from time to time. When that happens, just regenerate. If it happens again, then refresh. So it's giving me backstories. Abby was born into a family of renowned scientists. She absorbed her twin, and that's what gave her that genetic anomaly. And she was marked by frequent illnesses, but because of her parents' status, they were able to shield her. And as an adult now, she's having to still hide that. Now, it did give me her parents' names right here in Chat GPT. So let's see, we have her love interest. We have information on him. He grew up in a small, nurturing family where he developed a strong moral compass. So he definitely lives by a code. He excelled in sciences and was drawn to genetics in college, hoping to make a positive impact on the world. So he is definitely a rule follower, which means that when something happens that kind of shakes his world, and makes him question everything that he thought he knew about the world that he lived in, it's going to turn his world upside down, and we can play with that. So again, here are all of our characters. We have towns. We have important towns. Now we have some additional information. Now, I like this. I might grab some of this information here on the town. I'm going to copy this because maybe I want to add that into Tinker. Let's see what Tinker gave us. So scrolling up, we have a setting, dystopian future Earth. So we know where it's at. We know, let's see, the primary town is New Haven, and we have skyscrapers. Okay, so I don't need what I had inside Chat GPT-4, but I might want to move some of that information over at some point. But I know that we have New Haven. So do we have more information about New Haven further down? Let's see. Let's add New Haven here as a location. And I'm going to put some information here about New Haven because that's part of my setting. And let's see. Here's some more myth, lore, and legend. So let's add that information too. Now we already have some information here about the aliens, about the Earth and humanity. We have some information about the Gemini Project, but we don't have the lore about it. I'm going to go ahead and input that here. Now, I would have to read all of this information to make sure that what I have under the Gemini Project here under other and what I have under existing lore for humanity, that they don't conflict with what I'm adding here under myth, lore, and legends. And under this myth, lore, and legends, I'm going to say human. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to my next step. Now I could ask for another character list if I wanted to, but at this stage, if I had fully fleshed everything out, looked at all of my characters, got them exactly where I wanted them, and I do mean I would have spent a lot of time with them fleshing out every single one of them. After I did that, then I would come here to step 5, and I would have to decide, do I want to have 30 chapters? Do I want to have 50 chapters? How many chapters do I want this body of work to be? Now, one of the things that I have to think about is, what kind of POV do I want? How many POVs do I want? So I know that I have some main characters, so I may want to have some POVs from the protagonist, from Abby's POV, from her brother's perspective, from Ethan's perspective. Those might be the 3 main ones, but then I also want to have some POV maybe from the alien. So if I wanted to, I could play around with this and make sure that it's done by scenes. And in order to do that, I'd have to be really careful to identify that maybe I want 5 beats per scene, and maybe I want to have within chapter 1, maybe I want to have 5 different POVs in there, and each one of those POV heads, maybe I want it to have 5 beats each. I'm going to play with this. So let me go ahead and copy this. I am going to take this into Tinker, but I'm going to come up here and look. So we have a character list. We have detailed information about them. We have 30 chapters. We could do more, we could do less, we could do 50, we could do 100. And usually with some of my serialized bodies, I might do 100 of them if they are short chapters. But because I'm going to have some scenes within my chapters that might be POV specific, I'm going to leave it at 30 for now. Now, I could name the genre, or I could just keep it at, let's see, sci-fi fantasy. So I'm going to ask it to create a chapter by chapter outline that follows the Snyder beat sheet, identifying the catalyst. Now I can't say each odd chapter should be from the protagonist POV. What I can say is in each chapter, in each chapter, there will be 5 sections as followed. Let's see, we want chapter 1A is Abby, third person, Abby's POV. We want chapter 1B to be, let's just say the character with the most to lose. And let's repeat that. So we'll make this 1C, make that 1B, make this 1C, make this 1D, and make this 1E. So let's number these, or at least give it some form of an indicator. Let's see, all chapter summaries, and chapter section, 5 beats per chapter section summary. Let's add summary to each one of these, just so that the verbiage stays consistent. Now, as you can see that depending on the needs of the story, I do go in and I alter my prompts. Now, is this going to work? I don't know, because I've not used this prompt inside of NovelCrafter changed in this manner. The result that I get in just a moment is going to be the first time that I have seen the result. Now, all chapter summaries must include either or the protags, let's say Abby and or her brother, POV, let's see, aim main characters with the most at stake. Now I'm going to remove this part right here, because that is only if I am alternating between the two, like a male and a female character. Let's say each chapter must contain, and remember I said 5 beats in number format, and let's make those should have 2 to 4 subbeats, because we want to make sure that there's enough in there. Every summary should begin with a hook and end on a cliffhanger beat, emulating like a popular television drama. Incorporate red herrings that you would find in like Lester Dent. I really like to use Lester Dent. Let's see, I want it to refer to the prepared character list, integrating the attributes and so forth. And I want it to only add new characters when and where needed. Okay, and I want it to bold their names for easy identification. And let's see, and make the characters' weaknesses, strengths include evident in the summaries. Now, I also want to include this information. See, so we want to wrap that information into the beats as needed. We want to ensure that each chapter transitions smoothly into the next. We want to add a description for the setting, tone, and the location. Let's see. We also want to facilitate attraction and romance between the protagonists, Abby and Ethan, and Abby and the love interest, who is Ethan. I want those to be marked. Mark them with intimate moments. Let's see, include the time, day, and I want to also state, identify any combat scene. And I do that just because I really want it to be easy for me to find those, because I may need to pay attention to those. And I want the brother to have opportunities to create chaos and battle. Now, remember, I have chapter X and I need it to be chapter X. I need A with 5. Now, again, I've not done this before, so I don't know how well this is going to work. It could work, it may not work at all, and I may have to make some changes. So let's take a look at this. So it's going to provide the outline for the first chapter as given. So it's letting me know that Chapter 1A, Abby's POV, I have the day, the time, the characters involved. I have the setting, I have the character's voice, the story tone. So under here, I have number 1, beat 1 is the catalyst. We have the subbeats within. We have the routine beats for the lab. Now we do have some red herrings. We have the obstacle. We have a cliffhanger, but then it then also goes into chapter 1. So I can take all of these and create my chapters within NovelCrafter and have scenes that depict all the information that I need. And I'm curious to see what these will do. Now, my experience prior, when I was in fleshing out some of my chapters, I noticed that if I ran one beat at a time, that it was giving me between, say, 400 and 600 words, maybe about 500 or so on average. But that means that if I have 5 different beats per subchapter, that means that I could potentially have like anywhere between maybe around 2,000 words or so, give or take, because sometimes my chapters might fall under 300, sometimes they'll fall above 550, closer to 600. So that's why I say that it's generally about 500. So here it's telling me that the outline for chapter 1B would then continue following this format. So I'm going to tell it to continue with the format and let's see what it does. Now keep in mind, it is using up these words. It is hitting my API and charging me for these specific words. Now, prior to this generation, I generated about 162,000 words, and it ended up being about $22. So 162,000 words ended up being less than $25 for me. And that includes the word count within Tinker, because you have to keep in mind anything that you're generating in Tinker is eating words on your API, and anything that you are generating in Prose also does that. So let's take a look. We just finished 1B, so now we want to continue. I'm going to tell it to continue with chapter 1C following the same format. And again, it's giving me the POV character, telling me what's happening. So let's see who has the most at stake in chapter 1C. While that is happening, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the same thing over here, but I need to change a little bit of information here because I think I listed the brother's name. I need to make sure I didn't list his name. Remove Ethan because I think it's Marcus. Okay, so let me go ahead and send this off and we'll see what chat does. So chat is giving me the 1A, as you can see here, just like what Tinker was giving me. It's giving me a list of my characters, the setting, the character voice, the tone. It's letting me know what that opening hook is as instructed. So it's giving me the same information. Here are my 3 subbeats like I asked it to give me, and I only want action, but can I really show frustration over inconsistent results? Yes, she can show that. But if I want it to be more detailed, then I would need to flesh that out more. Now remember, all of this is from Abby's perspective. It's not until I hit the end of the 5th beat within chapter 1A and then roll into chapter 1B that I will have a different POV character. And the LLMs love to have a mysterious message. Now, I would not list this. I would actually dig in a little bit deeper, and rather than receive a mysterious message hinting at the hidden truth about her DNA, I might change that because she already knows about her DNA because she's a geneticist. But It could be maybe some files that contain information about her parents. I think that could be interesting and open up the door for something different. So here we have the love interest and we have his information. We have an intimate moment, and keep in mind, intimate doesn't always mean steamy or sexual content. It can be a moment where they are bonding over maybe looking at DNA or looking at something else. It can be about something different. Let's take a look. We have 1C, we have Michael Harris. We know that his morning, it's Monday 7:25. Let's take a look at 7:15 a.m. on a Monday. And on that same Monday, we have Ethan and we have Abby. So it's all happening on the same day, maybe different time frames. And it's important to take note of your times because you want things to flow in chronological order. And the best way to know that you are keeping track of time is to know what the day and the time are within your story. Now, does it mean that you have to state it's Monday at X time? No, this is more for you to understand what your body of work needs, and it also directs the LLM. So let's see, we have 1C. So we want to continue with chapter 1D using the same format. And then we would, of course, do that for 1E as well. And we would ask it to continue here. We have 1C. And this is actually our alien, so that's interesting. And here we have some red. It's a network error. So let's ask it to regenerate. And again, you do run into this from time to time, especially if there's some glitches happening or hiccups happening in OpenAI or OpenRouter, depending on which one you're using. If you encounter network errors, just know that you may need to keep prompting it to continue, or you may need to take a little break and wait until maybe the systems are back up. I do run into network errors frequently. It's not uncommon for me to encounter those from time to time, especially if I'm asking for very intricate information. Now, interestingly, it started over again. So it's a little bit confused right now. So I'm going to stop it and I'm going to tell it that it is worse. And I'm surprised that it didn't give me a questionnaire to fill out. So let's start it all over. Let's go back. We're going to look at these 1D. Now let's go and take a look at chapter 1E following the same format. And let's take a look at who had the most at stake here. So we have 1D is our commander, our alien, and 1C was the director. Let's see, that was the alien. 1E is Marcus, her twin persona. So that means that Abby's experiment has gone wrong. So that means that I need to make sure that whatever she does brings out her twin within this first section up here. So she begins her knowledge with her day that she's on the verge of a breakthrough. The chapter opens with her analyzing the latest genetic sequence. She has hope. She confides in one of her colleagues. She looks at her updates. She reveals the personal stake she has in her research, but who does she reveal that to? That's what I need to make sure that I'm showing. Is it to herself? Is it to somebody that she trusts? Here we have a monologue about her hiding her condition. Maybe she has a flashback here. We have to give her that information. She stumbles upon something within her DNA and she calls for a peer review of the findings. Maybe she sends it off, and maybe that kind of puts her in the hot seat if somebody else realizes that it's happening. See, she knows that she's being watched. Now, somewhere in here, I think it would be really neat if rather than her reveals the personal stake she has in the research, what if she injects herself? Now, she could inject herself and then all of a sudden she could feel funny and realize that something has happened. Maybe when she's taking a look at some of the results, she realizes somewhere down here that it looks like things are evening out, and maybe she asks for a peer review because maybe the sample of blood that they don't realize is hers, maybe the abnormality in her blood, maybe what she injected herself with kind of normalizes her blood, but then later on her blood breaks down, and that's what causes her to shift between herself and her brother. So again, this is the kind of stuff that I do whenever I am fleshing out a body of work. So let's take a look at, that's C, this is D, who is E? So this is her twin. He has already come out. We know that reflects on his birth through Abby's experiment gone awry. So remember, his birth happens as soon as she takes the injection and things go haywire in her body. So I would definitely need to reword some of this content. Now, before I would continue on, generally with the next chapter, I would have to read all this content and make changes. But because I want you to see how I progress, I'm going to ask it to continue with chapter 2A following the same format. And I would do this until I reached chapter 30. So as you can see, there's a lot of going back and forth whenever I'm doing this. And again, if you don't want to do this in Tinker, because you don't want to eat up the words here, you can definitely go into Open Router and use one of the free LLMs. You could go into OpenAI and use one of the free ones. You could go into Claude Chat. You could go into Chat GPT 3.5 or version 4, and you could just go back and forth with the LLM. So again, use whichever LLM you want to flesh this out with. So just because I want to show you what this might look like when you set it up for inside of your novel crafter within the body for your prose generation, let me go ahead and copy some of this information because I'm going to show you what that would look like. Or better yet, why don't I just grab this, bring it over here, and bring up 2 of these. I am going to go back up. Now, before I forget, why don't I go in and look at my style? And I'm going to go into Atticus, and I'm going to grab my style here. Let me go ahead and create my style. So this is my prose style, and I have Abby, I have her twin, her love interest. I can go in and grab all this. Now, I also have my writing information here on the genre, so I'm going to remove that from here, and I'm going to open up a new entry for my story genre. So right now, I only have 6 entries up top under characters, 1 for location, 3 for lore, and 4 other. Now, again, I could have multiple locations here because it's not just New Haven. There's probably military bases, there's an alien spaceship, all the stuff that I need to put down as locations. And I also have at least 9-10 more characters to put into my entries for my character list. And that's only talking about my supporting characters that I put all here under 1. I would want to enter each one of those separately along with other characters as they came up. But in the interest of time, I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is go up and I'm going to I can hit plan and I can create my first scene here. Or I could go to write and I can add my initial scene here. I do like looking at the plan because I can write my first scene here, which is chapter 1. I can even add 2, 3, and 4. Now keep in mind that I'm going to have up to 30 chapters, but within my 30 chapters, I'm going to have multiple scenes. I'm going to minimize this and let's go in and look at my chapter. Chapter 1 is Abby's POV. I'm going to copy this information right here, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this. I am going to go in and I'm going to open up chapter 1. Now, under chapter 1, I can copy all prose, export, delete once I have stuff set up. I can also come in here and I can set my custom POV. I can exclude content. I can add additional information. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a summary. Now, not all of this is part of my summary. So some of this is like a scene 1, a scene 2. And let me go in and I want to show you how I can break this up. I'm going to go ahead and let me go all the way down to chapter 2. Because remember, we do have information for chapter 2 also. But remember, under chapter 1, this is only my chapter 1A. I still have B, C, D, and E to add here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in under write and I'm going to come down here. Let me make this bigger. Do you see how I have all this information over here? I have Abby's POV chapter. I have the day, the time. I can come in here and say under Abby's information, maybe I want to have more information about the POV. If I want to do that, eventually I'm going to need to designate whose POV this is. Now, I know that I have characters. I have this character here. Under characters, I have Abby. I have Dr. Stephen Young. I have Lena. And then I have my settings. I have my character voice, my character tone. And then I have this information. Now keep in mind, under my beat 1, these are my subbeats. So what I could potentially do is say that this information right here, I could state that this is beat 1, or I could say here, I'm going to go in and grab this information on my beats, and I'm going to say that it is a scene beat. And I'm going to input this information. Now, it tells me that there's no POV character, right? And it's telling me that there's nobody by this name in here. Now, is that because Stephen Young is in here? Here he is right here. If I wanted to, I could go in, make sure that my entry is right here for Stephen. Now, again, it's not reading it because I lumped them all in together. Notice how that took out that issue with Stephen, but I still need to know what POV. So I'm coming in here, third person limited, and I need to pick my character's voice. So it's going to be Abigail, third person limited. I picked that. Now it will automatically default to past tense, but I can also add that here. I'm going to say Abby's third POV limited past tense. Now I have my characters. I know who's in there, but do you see how I have these extra beats right here? I'm going to go and grab these and I'm going to remove them. And it says it might be too short, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and let's take a look. I'm going to input more information. I know that Abby begins her day with the knowledge that she's on the verge of a breakthrough with her research. So the chapter opens with her analyzing the latest genetic sequence. So I want to show this. So we already know that this is what she is doing right now in the opening. We know that she is looking at this information. We know that she confides into him about the potential risks. What risks are they? So let's take a look at that. So Abby is hard at work in her lab, going through tests, reading results. Let's say Dr. Stephen Young asks if she wants some coffee, and she states yes, she needs it to wake her up while he's gone getting coffee. She draws her own blood and adds it to the next batch of samples to be tested. So right there, we can show exactly what is happening. This is all actions. We're showing what she is doing. Now, I'm going to come down here. Now, she checks on her team's progress, meets Lena for updates. While she's here, she's doing all this stuff, right? She's having to do these different things. Now, let's see. Say, when he returns, confides in Young about the potential risks to people if they find a way to suppress the DNA. Let's take a look at, she's going to check with her team's progress. Maybe she has other tests that have been run, but I won't know that yet. Now, I do want to come down and I want to have additional information here. But before I do that, I want just this beat to be run. The other thing that I can do is I'm also going to add her style guide. Let's take a look at Abby's style guide. I'm going to copy this. I am going to go back over and I'm actually going to put it here. I haven't put it here yet, so I'm curious to see exactly what it will do. So let's see exactly what this information will do. Now, do I need to put it in brackets? I don't know, but let's take a look and see. Now, keep in mind, I might want to add additional information here. Now, I can generate the prose right now if I want to, but I also might want to add a new scene for, this would be for my chapter 2, 1B. Now, again, I don't have enough information here yet, but I could put my beats for chapter 1B right here. I could put my scene information here. Now I'm going to go back up here. Let's generate some prose. I do want it to go in and do turbo. So it shows her peering through the eyepiece of her microscope. It shows her taking a look at the different information that she's looking at, the slide, the stain. We have the other doctor asking her if she needs a caffeine boost. She's telling him yes. Minutes tick by in silence. Here you go. He has returned. Talks about the DNA that they're studying. It has potential beyond our wildest dreams, but if we can't find a way to suppress it, her voice trails off as she doesn't want to portray, why she's doing this. Now, again, you can continue here. One of the things that I like about this is that I can then hit enter here and I can go to my next beat. So take a look at this. I have another scene right here. That means that I can come up here. I'm going to find my next beat, which may be all the way up here. She checks with her team's progress right here. So this information right here, I can put right here. So maybe she has additional information. Now it says it leaves too much creative freedom, and that is because I haven't put enough information in here. Now, do I have Lena in my character list? If not, now I need to go and grab Lena from here. And again, this is just a quick way for me to go in and play with content. I can put it all in there, and then whenever I need the character, I can add it, or I can take the time up front to add my characters as needed. Now, I could add more information about Lena, which if I was going through and fleshing this out to a greater degree, I would definitely do that. Now, keep in mind, we are still in her POV, so I don't have to make that change, but I would want to make a change here on chapter 1B. I'd want to change the POV character here. But for now, I would need to say that, let's see, Young studied her for a moment longer before nodding, slowly gesturing, not of agreement, but of, let's see, acknowledgement of the gravity she carried within her every word and action. So they're talking about theoretical hypothesis. They're talking about the research and not wanting it to become a weapon. And let's say that a timer goes off. So do we want her to pick up the phone, or let's have her leave? So she leaves Dr. Young to handle the ongoing, then walks out. Now, I don't know what lab yet. I'm going to say name it, where there are test subjects being held. One is a teen girl that Abby feels a connection to, because that could have been her. So again, I'm giving the LLM something to write about. So while in there, she checks on her team's progress and meets with Lena for updates on the test subjects. And she asks about the teen girl and her result. Let's say the teen looks feverish. Okay, so we can definitely leave it here. And we can generate prose and see what that does. Now, keep in mind that it reads 300 words up. So let's go ahead and hit turbo again. We are still in her first person POV. Now, because I have the information up here and it's already writing in this style, I'm not going to repeat her style again, but I am curious to see if it will handle the content the same or give it the same flavor of voice. So here she leaves things in his capable hands. She enters lab 3B, so it gave me a name. Now I could come over here and under locations, I could put that she's in lab 3B. So I could begin to name my labs and have instructions on where to find that. So she observes the girl's shallow breathing, the unnatural flush on her cheeks, the reaction to the latest vaccine trial. She has some empathy for the girl because of what the girl's going through. And then we have Lena approaching. And keep in mind that currently, with what I have generated, 862 words between those two. Currently, I have 4 pages. So again, it generally generates, I'd say, anywhere between 400 to 500 words on average. Now, we could go in and look at click right at the end of your last paragraph and hit enter. And you would do your little slash sign. And once you do that, then you would go ahead and type in scene beat, because now we are doing our next scene, which is, remember, we have our scene beat right here. We have 1, 2, 3. We have under the catalyst, this is the hook. This is what's happening. We have 1, 2, 3. We have this information now that I would need to flesh out. Now, again, it says that it's too short. It's asking me to add more details. There's no codex mentioned of anybody that's in this scene. So I could say the personal stake she has in the research. I can say the results reveals the personal stake she has in the research, leaving her to school her face and hide her emotions because she can't let others know she's afflicted. Now, I can go deeper into that because keep in mind, additional information that I'm going to have to write on this. And I'm going to have to go through and look at each one of these. Now, again, I've only done these top ones. So I have the catalyst. I have 1, 2, 3 beats. And then I have her routine. And then I have this one. So keep in mind that with just my chapter 1, I have beats for here. I have 1, I have 2, and this is my number 3, and this is my beat 4 for her scene. Remember, I'm only writing her scene right now, and this is beat number 5 for her scene. Chapter 1B will be the next character's POV, which means that I still have all of this information to get through. So each one of these, I'm going to have to move my information over to be able to write this whole scene. Here I have her. I've already done this one here about the potential risks. I've done checks on her team. She reveals the personal stakes she has in the research. Now, what personal stakes does she have? Now, she doesn't want them to know that she's afflicted. We can say, she and Lena discuss how funding will be cut if they don't find a vaccine or something that will suppress the undesired DNA changes. Again, I can add more, I can add less. It's saying that there is nothing here about Lena. I'm going to say Abby. So we already know stakes. Now, why did I do that? The LLM gets really confused if you use a lot of pronouns. So it's better to use the character's name so that you know that there's no confusion there. Let's go ahead and let's do some prose generation. Let's go up. So as you can see, right now I have 900 words. I'm only almost 1,000, and I have 2 more beats after this to do in her POV. Now, one of the things that I'll be doing is whenever I go back over to edit content, I really have to look at it, maybe put in some deeper POV. If there is a lot of he said, she said, dialogue tags, I will take those out and maybe put something meatier inside of there. I do try to stay away from describing my characters in every single chapter. That's why I like to keep things a little vague as far as what my characters look like. And I might, the first time that they're introduced, add what the person looks like from another person's perspective, like inside of Abby's chapter, she might describe what Stephen looks like or what Lena looks like, but she can't describe herself. Again, I would come down here at the end of my prose, put a little slash. I would go ahead and have my little slash here, and I would add another scene. And my next scene here, I've got 1, 2, 3 here. So now I would come down to this one, and I would talk about her being real meticulous with the work that she's doing. Maybe somebody leaves, I can have that internal monologue about how she feels about the changes in her body, how she's trying to hide from things. I can have all that information in there. Now, this can end up being a pretty long chapter if I do each one of these individually. Now, if I don't want to do them individually, I could take each one of these and I could take these beads all at once and I could add them right here and I could flesh them out. So I already know that the lab work that's being done, I can show all that information and I can use the information here, and it would only give me like 400 to 500 words, maybe 600. But again, it comes down to how many words do you want? I used 3 different ones. See, I had 1, 2, 3, 3 beats, gave me 1,400 words. So if I don't want to have a 5,000 word chapter, then I would need to start combining my beats to ensure that my chapter wasn't longer than what I wanted. Now, I didn't go in and flesh this all out, but let's see what it'll do. Keep in mind that I could have done all 3 of these all 5 of my beats with the 3 sub beats. I could do each one of them individually, and I could have had 5 times 3, or I could have, which would have been the 15 different beats, or I could do just 5 total. So you always have to take into consideration how long you want your chapters to be. And I would keep doing this until I actually ended up finishing my beats accordingly. And again, I can't stress enough how much you need to actually flesh out your beats so that you get what you want. Now, take a look at what happened here. I have a little bit of information here. Now, if her mother is dead, then she can't talk. So that's one of the reasons why you have to be really careful. Now, if this is a flashback, then I would have had to have made sure that I set that up. And that's one of the reasons why you have to be really careful with how you write your beat. Again, I did not flesh out this one. It did not give me very active content because I did not give it action. So here, she has a meticulous nature in her work routine. I didn't tell the LLM what that work routine looked like. My other beat says there's an internal monologue about her hiding her condition, but I don't say anything else about it. It's too vague. My subbeat here about a flashback to a discussion with her parents about her condition, that also confuses the LLM, the AI. All of this needs to be fleshed out. And keep in mind, when I was fleshing out the content up here, I gave it very clear instructions on what I wanted to have happen inside of the lab. And that ensured that I had active content. I have conversations going on. I have her actually over a microscope taking a look at the slides, looking at the cellular activity of these stains on the slide. Again, the prose is only going to be good as the information that you input. If you have any questions or thoughts about the content that you have seen today, reach out and let me know. This video is pretty long, so I'm going to cut it short here. But as you can see, just with the little bit of fleshing out that I did today, this is a really lengthy process. It is not something that you're going to get done with a single button click or even get done within 2 hours from conception to generation. You have to put the time in and flesh it out in order for it to be a solid story for you to be able to edit. And that is actually how you harness the power of NovelCrafter to bring your story ideas to life. I really want to thank you for joining me today. I really want to thank you for joining me today on this creative journey. I hope you're as excited as I am about the endless possibilities that NovelCrafter offers. Remember, every great story starts with a spark of imagination, and with tools like NovelCrafter with tools like NovelCrafter, that spark can become a blazing tale. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay updated with our storytelling adventures. Keep crafting, keep creating, and I'll see you in the next chapter of our storytelling journey. Bye for now.